We begin today with a million-dollar question. Will that million help move the needle for Florida Democrats? The party is 2 weeks into a state tour aimed at registering voters, the most basic part of building a party. Florida Republicans closed the gap and racked up numbers over the last decade and now have well over 500,000 voters as advantage. That led to a near sweep that makes Florida state government solidly conservative. And that led to Florida being if not the leading state for what they call culture war legislation. Nikki Fried became chair of the Florida Democratic Party 6 months ago and is leading the charge in a new kind of fight mode. Nikki Fried joining us via Zoom today, live from, I don't know where you're live from. Nikki, where are you now?
I'm actually home this weekend, so I'm in Tallahassee.
Well, welcome to the show. Permit me to say Florida Democrats have been in defense mode for a year, maybe more, maybe two. And now I guess this might be the new aggressive stance. Is that valid?
Absolutely. And I think you're right. And the people of our state know this. You know, Florida Democrats completely collapsed last year. Everything from lack of investment from both our statewide apparatus, our national partners. And we saw a 19-point loss for Florida Democrats because that's what it was, a complete collapse. And so when I took over at the end of February, I said, we are going to be doing this differently. We're going to be showing up into our communities. We're going to be fighting to take our state back. We're going to every part of our state to create this energy that hasn't been here in the party apparatus. And so you heard that we made a $1 million commitment, and that's what started off our Take Back Florida tour on voter registration, because we too have been seeing this gap. And so we have to make sure that we're going into our communities year-round organizing, energizing our base, because we've seen the most egregious policies coming out of Tallahassee that has taken our state in such a drastic right-winged position, which is not who we are as Floridians. Florida has always been the middle of the road. We've always been more libertarian. And this aggressiveness from the Republican Party and the extreme agenda is having a toll on the people on our ground. We have a huge economic downfall right now. The largest inflation in the nation is right here in the state of Florida. And of course, property insurance is top of minds of everybody in our state. So Florida Democrats are going to be aggressive. We're going to be fighting back, and we're going to make sure that people of our state know exactly what Democrats stand for and who we fight for.
All right. So before we get into all of the talking points of it all and the messaging of it all, which is critical for everybody who has a message, I want to just point out that it sounds like you're taking a page out of the GOP handbook. I mean, that's exactly what Florida Republicans have been doing, and it's worked for them. So where do you go with that? Is this like a head-on battle, mano a mano?
I'm ready for that battle every day of the week, because look, it's the people of our state that we all fight for. And when you are talking about, the right-wing extremism that's coming from the Republicans, 75% of our state did not want a 6-week abortion ban. Regardless if you personally have personal beliefs against abortion, it's about making sure that government is not overreaching and having those conversations inside of your doctor's office with you. Then 71% of our state did not want permitless and trainless open carry here in our state, yet the Republicans did it anyhow, the anti-immigration bill. So we have a lot of really important issues. And of course, the assault on our economy, but our assault also on our academics. Right now, as you know, education is a top of mind of so many Floridians as we're going back to school. Palm Beach was last week. I believe Dade County is this week. Highest teacher shortage in the nation. School boards don't know exactly what classes to teach, which classes not to teach, AP psychology in or out, the attacks on Black history, and of course, removing of our books all over our state. That's not who we are as Floridians. That's not where we are. So we are going to be aggressive.
So
we are going to be
okay.
our community.
Let me just, you bring up some really interesting math. So sort of calculate this for me. The numbers that you just cited factually about the abortion, 6-week abortion ban is not a popular thing in the population. And yet I was in Tallahassee when it was passed. It was a 2-to-1 thing in the Florida legislature. So what you're talking about in the halls that make policy and make law, there is a 2-to-1 conservative majority put there by Florida voters. So how do you reconcile that math?
It's a couple of things. Again, if you actually had the turnout in 2022 that we typically have in a gubernatorial election like in 2018, 1 million Democrats did not show up in the 2022 election, including add that to the amount of our third party, our NPAs, no party affiliates, that also stayed home. And so when you see such a mass exodus from the polls, that is what has resulted in the supermajority in both the House and the Senate, the sweep of all four cabinet
Okay,
positions.
but why? Why did people stay home?
Well, it was a couple of things. First of all, Ron DeSantis had a significant amount of war chest. Democrats did not. There was not a lack. There was a lack of energy from the candidates, a lack of a platform. What exactly was Democrats, selling in 2022? Even to this day, I don't have an answer for that. We weren't putting the work on the ground. We weren't doing year-round organizing, and so people just felt, well, why would I come out and vote? One party is the same as the other. And so people stayed home. And that's what equated to, and of course, the tremendously large gerrymandering of our districts. We're seeing that the congressional maps, there was a deal on Friday. It looks like the congressional map up in the Panhandle where Al Lawson was may be coming back to the Democrats and having a new drawn seat, because Governor DeSantis came in like we've never seen before and drew those congressional maps. We've never seen a governor come in, and now he's going to be losing in the courts. But the seats have been gerrymandered, and you can see that all over the maps. And so that is where Democrats are going to have to fight back. We're going to have to fight back in the margins. We know that our third parties right now are close to almost a third of our electorate. And the Democrats not just need to talk to Democrats, we need to be talking to independents. And of course, the policies that we talk about, the economy, the environment, education, those aren't issues that are just solely Democrats. Women's right to choose, permitless carry, those are not Democratic issues. Those are issues that affect everybody in our state. And we didn't have a cohesive message in 2022. You better believe we're going to have it in 24.
So let's get back to that messaging now, because that is critical. And we as journalists always tell people, don't listen to the talking points, look beyond, drill down, do firsthand. But we know that talking points and messaging is critical in an election, and the Republicans had that as early as 2018. And I think anyone on the street can tell you anti-woke is a Republican message. And there are a lot of people who you can't ignore that a significant number of voters don't want to be whatever they consider woke. And then there was, in 2018, socialism. That word resonates, especially in South Florida, with so many people who don't want to be socialist. Not that anyone ever would be or government ever would be, but that was a very clear, very convincing message. What did Democrats do to combat something like that?
We didn't. And that's where you saw the losses. There was no combat. When we were labeled socialists, let me also be very clear. As somebody who grew up in Miami, somebody who heard the stories of my back neighbors who fled communist Cuba, that we understand why so many Floridians and that left their South American homelands to come here to our state and to our country for democracy, for freedom, for liberties. And they come here, and I can tell you, I would never, ever let our government go into a direction that would take away those rights and those liberties. But unfortunately, that's what the Republicans are doing. That they're making it harder for people to have that American dream. They're making it harder for our teachers to teach. They're going into our classrooms. They're going into our doctors' offices and our hospitals. They're going into the very personal decisions that are being made every single day. And they're not doing anything to actually fix the economy. We're at 9% inflation, the highest property insurance rates in the country. So while they've been dealing with these culture wars and dividing our state, the everyday working Floridian, the people that have lived here for generations, or the people that have come here to retire, can't afford to live here anymore. So the message for Democrats is the same message for the everyday Floridian in our state. The culture wars are hurting our academics, they're hurting our environment, they're hurting our economy, and it's time to fight back and give the people of our state back their state, because unfortunately the MAGA extremism is hurting our state. And so that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be having a cohesive message, fighting against the messaging that has been on us. And what are the Republicans saying right now? That our liberal agenda, I mean, that's the best they've got. And the reality is that the people of our state are tired of this. In fact, again, Ron DeSantis is underwater in our state. He has flipped to under 50%, close to about 46% of favorability. If he had an election today, he would lose. These cultural wars do not work and are having huge impacts on our kids, on our teachers, on our families, on our immigrant populations, and that has to stop. And that's what Democrats are going to be presenting for the 24, a cohesive message, fighting back for our economy, fighting back for our educational system, and fighting back for the everyday working person of our state.
And fighting in the margins, which I feel like every single Florida election somehow is in the margins, right? Nikki Fried,
Yes.
great to see you. Thank you for your time today. And check in. We want to be on top of things as we march toward 2024.
Thank you.